Meghan Markle, oh my God, what am I saying? I mean, of course, Meghan Sussex, the made-up name the dollar store duchess regally commands that we now call her. If she's interested, her actual marital surname is Mountbatten Windsor, but that's in the real world. And as we found out, with a mounting sense of horror on her disastrously dull Netflix show, Meghan dwells in an entirely different world. Her world, in all its weirdness. Greeted with universal disdain by the critics and all-round contempt on social media, the atrocious With Love Meghan seems like a farewell letter from a wannabe star who quite simply hasn't got a clue. If Mrs. Sussex deliberately set out to bore us to tears, mission accomplished. But if she thinks this dreary dross is destined for smash hit success, I've got bad news for her. What the hell is this swirling mass of irrelevance supposed to be? Who in the name of God is it for? Is it aimed at 90-year-old grannies? TikTok is a sea of rage with young people, a mixture of bemused and angry over a bizarre programme they can't remotely relate to. Who's got time to waste hours making candles from beeswax? The Duchess helpfully informing those of us who don't own our own hives that we can get beeswax from our local beekeeper. Eh? Many of her luxury living tips seem to involve removing products from their shop bags and putting them into other bags tied up with a bow. Remember, folks, never tie a knot without a bow. Episode 1 of this 8-part dirge revolves around lovely, smiling Meg cutting up millions of vegetables for her lackey employee, Daniel, the makeup man. Olympic-class sycophant Daniel is easily pleased. "Why doesn't everyone serve them like this?" he gushes. "They're like green pearls." "No, Danny boy, they're just peas." As he joins his boss to enjoy the view from the house she has rented as a film studio, Dan declares, "This all feels so fake." Couldn't have put it better myself. It starts with bees. As some John Lennon lookalike helps Meghan confront her fears. Insects buzzing around her, Meg whispers, "I'm trying to stay in the calm of it. It's beautiful to be so connected." To what? What is she on about? For the indecipherable Mrs. Sussex, English is a second language. She speaks Californian gobbledygook. Check this out. "What was really fun was learning something with your friends and then recognizing that the mahjong becomes the background of the expansion of the friendship." Does she even know what that means? And does she even have friends? Or just minions like Daniel on the payroll and roped-in C-list renter celebs? But back to the show, as we savour the joys of someone else's kitchen, while Meghan regularly, unwisely, blurts out, "This is not my real home." There's a must-have recipe for ice cubes. Remember, folks, never use tap water. And she bakes a cake, even though she doesn't like baking. Nor do I. Especially when the laborious construction of a monstrous, amateurish honey lemon sponge is presented to the stupefied audience as TV entertainment. "It's a beautiful on the inside cake," Meghan insists. Let's hope so, because it's ugly on the outside. She brews some tea with all the visual charm of a urine sample, coming soon, by the way, to a lifestyle site near you, and chucks some pasta and tomatoes, into a pot and grandiosely calls it single skillet spaghetti. Memo to Meg. The water you boil the pasta in is not a sauce. She makes the mistake of introducing professional chef Roy Choi, whose culinary skills remind us that plodding home-cook Meghan doesn't really have any. And then that excruciating moment when she rounds on likeable actress Mindy Kaling for calling her Meghan Markle. You could cut the ice-cold atmosphere with one of the Duchess's sorely overused vegetable knives as she hisses, "It's so funny. You keep saying Meghan Markle, but you know it's Sussex now." No, Meghan, it's not Sussex, and it's definitely not funny. What is funny is the unintentional comedy of a toweringly tedious production that is so breathtakingly bad, it's almost mesmerising. But what's that noise? It's the sound of off switches being pressed by the handful of long-suffering viewers who are still awake. It's the sound of failure.
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
Well, I hope that Mindy was getting paid well. She probably was, because that was horrible. What a nasty thing to do to a guest in your kitchen, right, Simon?
It's not her kitchen.
Yeah, sorry, my mistake. I stand corrected.
OK, I liked her. I didn't find her... Wait there.
The worst parts.
No, I just found her... She was really inoffensive. Really inoffensive. But...
What about when she cuts Mindy dead?
I didn't really care. I only watched two
Well, that's not nice. Why did you like her then?
I only watched 2 episodes of that. I watched Gordon Ramsay.
You know, it's so funny you say that. It's Meghan Markle. It's not Meghan Markle anymore. It's Meghan Sussex.
Yeah. Even though I claim that we're best friends, you don't know my real name.
I watched Gordon Ramsay swearing at people, and I don't mind that, so it didn't bother me. I'm not a snowflake. I don't get angry about her shouting at Mindy Kaling. But what I would say is, if she is responsible for not allowing herself to be produced, where is the content in that show? Nobody's gone out and done anything. Nigella wanders around markets to source the material. There's nothing in that show. That's what's wrong with it.
Totally agree.
And that's a producer's fault and Netflix's fault.
Yeah, well, someone's fault. And as you quite rightly say, it's not her kitchen, but she spends nearly all the time in it.
Yeah,
get out. I mean, the beehive bit, if you must, get out there and do something else. Don't just stand in your kitchen the whole time chucking spaghetti into one pot. We've got to play some more clips, so I'm going to have to ask you to shut up. This is Meghan with an astonishing revelation about that ginger, dim husband of hers.
I have a family, a husband, who, no matter what meal is put in front of him, before he tastes it, puts salt on. So I try to undersalt.
I love knowing that your husband likes it salty.
Do you try to undersalt? Do you undersalt?
That's a good joke in there, though, Mindy Kaling.
Well, Mindy's quite funny, and I thought very likeable. You want to talk about likeable? She was likeable, and she handled that bitter approach by Meghan with real class and charm.
People should Google Mindy Kaling, though.
Mindy, I like Mindy.
She's
not a likeable...
She is one
By
of
the way,
most
I'll tell you what I didn't like. That Daniel, what a tosser. Right, here's Meghan talking about her fabled jam.
I received that in the mail, a box of your preserves.
Yes.
It was probably one of the most glamorous moments of my life.
Mindy, as we just said, we like Mindy.
I don't.
She received some jam in the mail from Meghan. Probably one of the most glamorous moments of her life, apparently. Mindy, if you're watching, you need to get out more. You really do. Would you find that glamorous, receiving a pot of jam?
Sorry, Mindy's one of those celebrities who I absolutely love, but she is one of those Hollywood people that try to cling on to anyone because they have got an inherent low self-esteem. I mean, her and Bean...
don't know that.
No. Wow, all of a sudden you guys don't have evidence for something and you're worried about it.
No, but it is interesting because it's the only A-lister she could get to come on the show. That was quite interesting.
When you say A-lister, I'd never heard of them.
Okay,
but no, she was in the office, right? So she.
Yeah, exactly.
And I liked her. I liked her.
But we have to talk. You know, just to go back to the show. She is Meghan Markle is inoffensive and harmless in it. I think that.
Well, have you seen TikTok?
If she has
that's not what the kids think.
No, but if she has been,
you're the only person who likes her. Everybody hates her.
I'm not the only person.
TikTok?
I am not the only person.
Avalanche of hate.
I am not the only person who likes her, and I am indifferent to her. I'm just not spiteful, and I just don't find everything she does cause for concern like you guys do.
This show is a farewell letter. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. But as I mentioned in my monologue, at one point she makes this monstrous cake about this big, useless at making it. She doesn't like baking. She says, it's not my favourite thing. But she does it anyway for friends because she's so lovely. Well, here she is.
There's something really satisfying about a cake that is bare on the outside, but she's so beautiful on the inside. And you just don't know how good she is until you go deep and you get to know her better.
Don't pass that judgment.
I know.
No one knows your business.
What's interesting about this, I mean, if you can separate the woman from the content that's in there, I don't mind the woman. I find the content really dull. There's just stuff in there that's really surprising. She's got beehives, yeah? She says at the beginning, you know, we've had them for a year. Her bee outfit is pristine. They don't go out of the kitchen at all. It's somebody else's kitchen and they feel the need to mention it. There's kind of the first guest is
Come
sort of
on,
some...
Simon.
Wait,
she
the
comes
first guest-
across as a lobotomized Stepford wife.
She
Let's
does,
be
yeah,
real.
a lobotomized Stepford
Yeah,
wife.
she
really
does,
good
honestly.
friend. She
No.
really does.
She doesn't.
She comes across awfully.
I didn't find that.
My God, I always say this about her. At some point in her life, she's swallowed a bucket full of boring pills. She can't even say a word without being
That is a
tedious.
producer.
She is so boring.
That is a producer.
This programme is a mountain of tedium.
That is the producer's fault. Where is Netflix in all of this? If it's so badly cut and everything else, why can't
They don't care about this
No,
show.
It's
because...
also,
because
Kevin mentioned she has one of the best producers in the industry, someone who's produced Anthony Bourdain. Oh my God, they can't even make her look interesting,
But
and
Anthony
that's the problem.
Bourdain was always on location. There was always something to look at. There was always something to go for.
Yes,
that
but-
producer keeping
They
her in
could
that
have walked
kitchen.
around the garden or the yard, as they call it.
You needed more beehive stuff and
You
stuff
did,
like
you
that.
did, I agree
and
with
I
that.
just think that where's Netflix in all of this?
Anyway,
Where are they? But
I'll tell you
have binged
where
it.
they are. I'll tell you where they are jettisoning this programme. They don't care about it.
You guys-
So when I went, stop talking with you, Simon. You're butting in all the bloody time. Can we get a word in? Samara's hardly spoken. So when I sat down to watch it a couple of mornings ago, because I had to, because I was about to interview her brother, Thomas Markle Jr., so I had to watch the show. So I sat down, I've got to watch it. So I get to Netflix and I'm going, oh my God, where is it? I can't find it. Oh my God, I don't think I can get to watch it. It was way down. They didn't even banner announce it on the day that it was launched. I think Netflix have already washed their hands of this, but the handy thing, folks, we all now know, thanks to Meghan, that we can get beeswax from our local beekeeper. Where I live, we don't have local beekeepers. We have local criminals and local knife wielders and local gunmen and local gangs. We live in cities, Meghan, but here is Meghan and Daniel spending about 4 hours making candles.
We just made candles. Should I put a little label on it? Should I write something? Daniel's Candles?
Daniel's Candles. He's gonna be so happy.
Sweet. And then this we're gonna call Come Back to Montecito Candle.
Look, I mean, the thing about this...
Pathetic.
Yeah, she tries to insert these sort of relatable moments into it. You can go to your local beekeeper. To be fair to her, she goes, you can find beeswax online. The thing that she doesn't acknowledge is that people are time poor. They're not just money lacking at the moment. People don't actually have time to rearrange vegetables into a rainbow-coloured thing. People don't have time to make candles because they're trying to pay bills, Meghan. What about that don't you understand? It just doesn't, the lack of disconnect, and we talk about a Stepford wife, she does seem to live in this gilded golden cage of Montecito where she can't leave.
What's the point of, taking a bag of shop-produced pretzels, opening the shop bag and then getting another plastic bag, pouring them in, and then putting a bow and a little label on? What is the point of that?
Also, what is the eco angle there? Let's save the planet, nature baby warrior.
Yeah, no. Well, let me tell you. You talked about her creating the rainbow of the fruit. Why? Why bother? By the way, she goes, I love to give the kids bags of seeds and a flower pot to plant them in. Yeah, I bet the kids are really thrilled with that. Right, you talked about the rainbow fruit. Well, that wasn't the only rainbow moment in this brilliant show. She put rainbow sparkles on a frittata, which is basically an omelette that you shove in the oven.
And then we have a frittata.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm plating for you as well because I
love
can't help it.
What are you sprinkling on it?
Flower sprinkles.
What? Are you Tinkerbell? This is crazy.
Your kids will like this.
Yes, do they add flavor or is it decorative?
It's just an accessory.
That's like what she is to Harry.
And that's just an omelette. I mean, all of her recipes were so crap. They're so mundane, What did she call it? A single skillet spaghetti. And she gets some pasta, shoves it in a bowl, throws the fruit tomatoes in, boils it up, that's it. And then she uses the water that she boiled the pasta in as a sauce.
Yeah, it's
just ridiculous.
So just
that'll be $100
I'm a better cook
million,
than her.
Netflix. That'll
So
be
just a
$100
couple of
million.
things.
She's not a very good cook.
But just a couple of things, okay? Are you watching this? You're obviously not the target audience.
I'm watching it as a TV critic,
Yeah, listening to your Netflix, listening to it not appearing on your Netflix, you're not being served this up, okay? So that's one thing. Another thing is, if you can separate the person from the content. The content is poorly produced and it's dull and it's bad. I watched it and I don't have a problem with her. I found it dull because I just didn't find it a very well-produced show. But I do have to say, sorry, Kev,
I'm getting used to this. Carry on, Simon. Just read a book.
Apart from her snapping at Mindy, what was it about her that you kind of found just so off-putting?
Very fake, not very nice, undercurrent of nastiness, particularly in that exchange with Mindy.
Yeah.
And just a fraud, an absolute fraud. You know, oh, look at me, aren't I lovely? I'm making some coffee for the cameraman. Well, we know how she treats her staff. Also, I mean, as I said in my monologue, does she actually have any friends, or just renter celebs or C-list celebs, and also her own staff, like that Daniel dork? But while she's wafting around, you know, in her carefully dressed down clothes. It's been estimated that in this series she wears £130,000 worth of designer clothes. Here she is talking about her garments.
Can you tell me about your clothes?
Yes, I like high-low, so Zara,
What?
Laura Piana,
Nice.
Jenny Kane.
Sarah! Oh my God, she's so down to earth.
Yeah.
That kind of crap. That's why I don't like her. Who the hell does she think she's kidding? As I say, it's been estimated that in 8 parts, this 8-part dirge, 40 minutes each, oh my God. I dare anyone to try to stay awake. She wears £130,000, that's $150,000 worth of designer clothes.
This is why the younger people are starting to hate her, because for a lot of young people, Zara is actually not a very cheap brand. And also the other thing that she mentions all the time is that she's, you know, you could get a cheaper version of this here, you could get a cheaper version of that there. I don't think it's very helpful. She's not the girl next door. I struggle to find a mother who would be cooking in all white. I just seriously, I don't
she's
understand.
presenting it. I mean,
I get that. I mean, she's not going to be wearing a boiler suit. But
because you guys really don't like her. There's no objective.
I have no real feelings about her. I just think.
Come on.
I don't. You know.
You do have feelings about her.
I'll tell you what I think about Meghan. I think she's very interesting. I think the whole phenomenon of Meghan's very interesting. The whole phenomenon of Meghan and Harry is very interesting. I don't dislike her. I neither dislike her nor like her.
Nobody's going to believe that.
There's an element of shaming people, though. She even references her childhood, TV dinners, junk food, drive-thrus. There are a lot of mothers that just have to do that. I don't know why she's acting all high and mighty now.
Yeah,
now that she's a highfalutin, a Sussex, as she likes to say.
She's trying to sort of play the down-to-earth housewife, the super mum, and she doesn't just make sandwiches.
I wish I had told Mr. Ben how much it meant to me and how much I learned and how much I retained from that, because he taught me how to compost and he taught me about the garden, and look at how sweet that is.
Beautiful. Meg, I think this is gonna blow your mind. A little Christini butterfly.
That's so good.
I just want to be sick. I mean, I would be sick if I ate flour sandwiches.
Yeah,
I mean,
disgusting.
you know, just serve the sandwiches, you stupid.
But it's not that show, is it? I mean, I don't...
Yeah, but I mean, the point is, as I said again in my monologue, who's this aimed at? 90-year-old grannies.
It's not aimed at us.
Well, I'll tell you what it's really not aimed at, is young people. Young people absolutely detest it. And they're just going, what's this all about? They don't even... She goes, I love to prep the guest room. Kids going, what's a guest room?
Yeah, precisely. So it's not aimed
I'm not known for being modest with bath salts.
It's not aimed at us, though. You may as well show it to sort of Navy SEALs and go, what do you think of this? We are not the audience. They are not the audience.
Why not just show it to SEALs?
But, Samara,
so she makes
said...
bath salts. This is how she gets this huge container. Poor old Daniel's going to sort of dissolve if he uses all of that. Anyway, so she makes a huge container, and to make bath salts, she gets bath salts, puts them in a container, and then puts some oil in it. And that's it.
Arnica oil, which
that's
quite a good tip.
Marvellous.
That's quite a good tip.
Yeah, other than the fact no one has a guess.
I don't need tips on how to make bath salts.
I've got Epsom salt, so I might put some arnica oil in there. That's quite good.
You see, target market,
and
90-year-old grannies in Simon London. That's who this show's aimed at.
Also, you said, like, there was this element of shaming her. You said that. How can you say that ironically? You shame her every week.
No, I said there was an element of shaming.
Criticise her.
Sorry, of an element of her shaming people.
No, I said, yeah, there was an element of her shaming people and mothers who actually maybe can't make flour crostinis for their kids and maybe have to do a McDonald's drive-through once in a while. There was that looking down, and I think that really goes to the heart of why people hate Meghan, is because they feel like she's looking down on them as some little piece of dirt on her Laura Piana shoes that she wants to flick off, honestly.
By the way, have you ever seen anybody cut so many vegetables? I mean, basically, most of the shows are going... and she's useless with the knife.
Yes,
as
she is.
As I said, she's not a particularly good cook.
No, she's
I can tell that. Look, let's get the dynamics right here, Simon. I'm the host.
Sorry.
So you can't keep interrupting me. When I need you to speak, I'll call upon you. But only kidding. So she sort of kind of cuts vegetables like this. And I think it was a kind of technical mistake to bring Roy Choi in. It suddenly exposed her for the amateur home cook that she is. I mean, she's not even a good home cook. I'm a better cook than her.
You know, he also exposed her for the horrible sort of person in front of the camera she is, because he brought so much life to that episode. He really invigorated it because he's an actual TV chef. And she was just sort of there in the background in her whites, just sort of like slaving over an onion.
And he was a good sport as well, like Mindy.
Was.
They're all doing their bit. And she's going...
But Kevin,
and he goes, there you go again.
Oh, Jesus
Just
Christ.
wait until the end of the sentence. Let's have a conversation. And then he goes, nice knife work. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Now, if we can get Simon to stop talking just for a second, after all that, we're going to come back to Meghan's show after the break. But first, here's a bad ad.
Oh.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Hey, you're Meghan Markle.
Yeah, hi.
Come on and look at me now. I'm the one and only. You can see it now. I got that funny honey. And I don't need to say it loud every time now. 'Cause I got every single dime now.
Ladies, it's Reitman's. Really?
Can't cook, can't act. What can she do? That's a Canadian advert. Reitman's is a Canadian fashion store. Is there such a thing as Canadian fashion?
I remember in Tom Bauer...
Bounty, wearing big hats and red
In Tom Bauer's book, Tom Bauer's book Revenge, he dishes that she made the director walk out of that shoot and she stole the high heels from it. Yes, so there you go. That's a little bit behind the scenes.
Good old Tom.
Yeah.
Always getting to the heart of the matter. That's the end of this part. We'll be back in a second with a little bit more of Meghan. Stay tuned. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
Welcome back to What Just Happened. This, of course, is our Meghan special because With Love, Meghan is currently disgracing the airways on Netflix as the world reels back in horror and utter boredom. But in the show, as we just discussed, she renames herself Meghan Sussex. And you just knew that some Hollywood crawl-ass would soon climb aboard the wagon. And first to crawl up her backside and call her Meghan Sussex was Drew Barrymore. Here we go.
This is the Fast Five with Meghan Sussex.
Fast Five. Also, Meghan talked to Drew about her perfect marriage. Check this out.
There was this sweet card from my kids and my husband saying, "We're so proud of you, Mama, and congrats on the show," and with flowers. And I just thought, okay, here we go. And I felt so loved. So that he had planned it in advance to make sure it was there when I got to my hotel room.
I mean, yeah, it's as if the Markle name has just become so soggy and dilapidated that she's actually just had to get rid of it and put it in the bin because, this whole rebrand.
She thinks that's likeable. It's pathetic. It's like drowning in a sea of syrup.
So, can you imagine what the royal family is thinking about?
That, wasn't it?
I'd love to know what the royal family is thinking about this right now. Like Drew Barrymore, it's Sussex, it's Sussex.
Yeah, well, me and Alex Phillips here, we did our goggle box. They should have done a goggle box with the King and William and Kate. That would have been something. Actually, I bet they watched it. I'd love to.
They're bound to have watched it, aren't they? I would have thought.
I would have wanted to be a fly on the wall.
And I wonder whether they liked it and liked her. I mean, this is the thing.
I think I know the answer to that, Simon.
I think they already didn't like her.
Completely. So this is the thing. I mean, is she trying to win over new fans, or what is the end game here? And I keep on saying this. You mentioned before the break about bringing in Roy Choi to do the chopping and juxtaposing how bad she is at chopping. Yeah. Again, where is Netflix in all of this? Where's the commissioner? Where's the producer? Where are people going, that's not working? And this is the question, I guess, which comes back to something you two talk about all the time, which is she won't be produced. She won't listen to people.
Maybe she was calling the shots, but you're right. I mean, it was a really bad idea. I don't necessarily want to promote fakery, but it was a really bad idea that every 3 minutes she kept going, this is not my real home. It just completely undermined the show. And then, as I said, Daniel at the end saying, or the end of episode 1, saying this all seems so fake. Edit that out. Yes. Edit that out. That's a TV critic's dream. Every single paper used that quote. But my show, thanks to Samara, my show here on Talk, over here in Britain, the Political Asylum, every night, Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. British time, but you can watch it all over the world. I highly recommend it. Great presenter. But thanks to Samara, its brilliant producer, we secured our own guest critic to review With Love, Meghan, and that was her brother, Thomas Markle Jr. Here's his first thought.
Everybody's going to watch the first one, and it's going to be the worst critically acclaimed episode known to me. And it's probably not. It's not going to make it through there. Then what's going to happen is everybody who watched the first one is going to watch 5 or 6 minutes of the second one, and probably go commit themselves to a psychiatric funny farm. Something like that.
He's no fool. That's exactly my thought. As you pointed out, Simon, everybody knew novelty value. Everyone's going to watch the first. Within 10 minutes, I was thinking, I don't think people are even going to get to the end of this episode, let alone the second. But Thomas was on the money there, wasn't he?
Yeah, and speaking of, I just want to stress to the audience, he was not paid a cent for that interview. He actually just really is upset with the way that basically, and how he said to me on the phone and how he said to you in the interview, Meghan is a really fake person. He doesn't like the public getting fooled by this perception that her PR people have spun, or that really she's spun in her head, because you won't listen to anyone on her team. So yeah, I just want to stress the fact that he just came and did this out of his own time. And he's just livid about it, because it's lies. It's all lies with Meghan.
He's on vacation with his dad. And Samara got in touch with him. He's been on my show before. I rather like him. He's a good guy. And we just said, would you mind watching the show and reviewing it for us? And he did all that, and he came on, and his review was pretty bloody good, though I say so myself. So that's 3 TV critics on this show, Simon.
But what is his end game? I mean, he's on vacation with his dad, and he's prepared...
doing what we asked him to, that's all.
No. He's on vacation with his dad, and he's prepared to stop doing that for no money whatsoever, to pour a bucket of crap over his sister's show.
Why not? Because he feels upset that she's so ruthless. He's so ruthlessly cut them out of her life. So here we go. Anyway, this is another excerpt from my excellent interview with Thomas Markle Jr.
The only thing that really made sense is when she started cooking bath salts there on the show and started talking about teabagging or something like that. I don't get it. She didn't cook anything for anybody ever growing up.
Yeah.
But when she started cooking bath salts on the show, then it all made sense.
I don't think it did, actually, but he's exactly right. Apparently she didn't really cook for the family, so this whole kind of super mom wonder in the kitchen act is just that. It's an act. Again, Tom was on the money, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I also just think that he said, you know, she's never cooked for us, her own family. She's never invited us over to her place. They live 3 hours away, 3 hours drive. And that's the lack of authenticity that this show has. Her own family.
But they're not talking, are they?
We're going to come on to that in just a little while because, again, Tom and I discussed the family element. But, yeah, that you know, you asked, you know, what my impression of her is generally. I mean, watching this series, I've always thought she's a fraud, an absolute fraud. At one point, Tom talked about her death stare. She has this death stare. And then she'll catch a camera on her and she'll go... She's a fake, and she feels that this fake act will endear her to millions of people. It does quite the reverse. I mean, it's transparent. It's an act.
There's a bit where she had this famous chef on. It was, I think, the last episode. And the chef goes a little bit off script. She's an older woman, so she's just bumbling a bit. And that death stare comes into shot. And you can see that they've had to cut it a little bit. And it's basically her mouth doesn't line up with the words because they've had to edit Meghan's original response out to that. And it just shows the element of the control freak nature of her is very pertinent in the show because she won't even let Mindy sprinkle the things on the omelette. She has to do it. Yeah. She has to chop everything. It's just a little bit revealing.
What is the point of sprinkling things on a frittata or an omelette?
But this is an exercise in her. She sees herself as as somebody who does crafting.
I'm glad she sees herself as that, because no one else sees her as that. Anyway, I had this great idea when I talked to Tom, and this is a good idea, and this is why she's stupid, because I know how she could have turned this into a blockbuster series. She could have invited her dad, her brother and her sister for a rapprochement lunch at the ranch in Santa Barbara, but she didn't. But I put this to Tom. She could have invited you, Samantha, and your dad round for lunch. Now, that would have got a massive audience, wouldn't it?
That would have been a showstopper right there. Although, you know, she probably would have turned us into wax dolls in the basement with all those candles and stuff.
See, that was a good idea, isn't it, Simon?
I have to say, that would have been a brilliant idea. Everybody would have tuned in and everything else. But I mean,
but she doesn't have brilliant.
But
ideas.
I mean, just as much as you see her as kind of fake and shallow and all the rest of it, I see him as a kind of a sort of a bit of a poisonous person.
Hang on a second. That's not fair.
It is.
Look. All he's doing there.
He's not said one thing
Hang on
nice.
a second. There's this bitter family feud. Tom and indeed Samantha are very upset that she's cut her ailing father out of her life. Poor old Thomas Sr. I mean, he's 80 years old. He's had 2 strokes and a heart attack.
No word from Meghan.
You know, he's ailing.
Yeah.
And they find it very upsetting that she won't even talk to him.
And I find it very...
So why do you think he's so awful for voicing that?
Well, why do I have to... Why are you allowed to pour a bucket of shit over Meghan and her personality, yet I've got to embrace this guy who ends his vacation or takes a break...
end his vacation.
He takes a break in his vacation for no money whatsoever to go and pour a bucket of shit over his sister.
No, he didn't.
I find it unedifying. I find it unedifying. He's not said anything nice in any of those clips.
That's not an accurate depiction of what
he's not said anything nice.
He didn't. I asked him to review the show. Yes, I led him into some areas where he talked about his family, and he talked about her ruthless side, her death stare, and how she's cut them out of her life for the last 4 years. And why shouldn't he talk about that? Why does that make him a nasty person?
And is that reviewing the show? Or
why does that make him a nasty person?
I'm trying to answer.
No, never mind
trying to answer.
that.
Is that reviewing the show, or is that
why does that make him a nasty person?
Because you asked him to review the show, and he used the opportunity to attack her personally.
You're talking utter
No, I'm not.
Isn't he?
Yeah, you asked earlier, what is the reason for this show? Why is the show going on? What's her end game? Her end game is reputation rehab. She's been slated.
I like that.
She's been slated in the media for the past 5 years, all for good reason, because she gives us so much to fester on. She's a very unlikable character, and she keeps making the wrong move every time. This show is meant to rehabilitate her as this like lovely, jovial housewife in Montecito. It's not done that, and Kevin should have produced it, because if she had the family there, if she was tying up different, rumors and different things that have gone around her, then it actually would have worked.
She's a loser. She's got no idea what works. As I say, she is sort of poisoned by this bucket of boring pills. She's unable to open her mouth without causing everyone to fall asleep.
But what's Samara?
She's so astronomically dreary. But let's move on. This is our sort of final clip from my triumphant interview with Tom Jr. Take it away, Tom.
Dad's doing great. We're actually still vacationing right now and having a great time and seeing a lot and making a lot of videos. And he's actually the happiest he's been in a long time, which is good.
I'm glad to hear that. Has he seen With Love, Meghan yet?
No, I didn't have enough heart medication for him to watch it, so I wanted to make sure I didn't want him to kick the bucket, so I have to go refill the prescription before I let him watch it.
Yes, I put it out. I didn't have enough heart medication either. But so Tom thought that it might, kind of affect Thomas Sr.'s health if he watched that show. He's probably watched it by now, though.
The trauma that she has inflicted on that family. I remember the last time he came on the show, he said, I wouldn't let her within 10 yards of my dad.
Yeah. And yet there he is again, still talking about her, still kind of being as awful as possible. If you listen,
he's a decent guy. I asked him some questions.
You asked me
he answered them.
You asked me what I think of the show. I think the show is rubbish. You asked me what I think of her. I find her unassuming. Quite harmless. Nothing wrong with her.
And unacceptable.
The trouble that I've heard all day today is just everybody relentlessly attacking her. She's damned if she does.
She's foisted a dreadful TV show on an unsuspecting world.
Agreed.
And she must not be forgiven for that. I made a film about it. It's called The Unforgiven. It's time for another bad ad.
She's wearing.
You can see it now. I got that funny honey, and I don't need to say it loud every time now.
Ladies, it's Reitman's. Really? Really?
The Reitmans again. So this is Canadian fashion, right? So that was when she would have been making suits up in Toronto, or no, was it Vancouver, wherever the hell she made it?
Correct, yes. One of the production assistants described her as the princess. So that was, I guess, her first foray into the royal family, because she was so demanding on set.
Yeah. She's still not a princess, nor is she called Sussex. We're going to have a lot of fun calling her Markle. She's divorcing her past. That's what she's doing. She's reconstructed herself, remanufactured herself to be this sort of high and mighty member of the royal family.
Who can blame her with a family like that?
You're just an ordinary girl from Los Angeles, and don't you forget it. Time now for some real ads. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
Well, welcome back to What Just Happened, special edition, really. But we're going to move on from Meghan now. Enough is enough. This is the big moment where we pick a big story of the week and pick it apart, really. But before we get to it, I've just heard, this is breaking news. It'll be interesting for people on this side of the pond, for the Europeans, for the British. Our Britain's Eurovision Song Contest song this year, it's just been revealed, is called What the Hell Just Happened? Well, they're going to be hearing from my lawyers. Now, let's get to the big moment.
3, 2, 1.
A couple of big moments, really, but we have to go rewind to Friday, that extraordinary moment in the White House office where Trump and Vance tore into Zelensky. Zelensky looking like a kind of chastened child. Huge explosive row. But let's have a quick look.
You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this.
Poor little Volodymyr, he's getting kind of alpha mailed in stereo there, isn't he? But, you know, he went there with an agenda. He went there with pictures to show the media, and he sort of assumed that America would be like all of the idiot European leaders and keep giving him help, keep giving him exactly what he wanted, and he got a different tune. It's about time that guy was knocked off his pedestal, if you ask me. Simon.
Right, OK. Look, there's some things that Trump is doing that I grudgingly admit are right. You can't just keep on throwing money at stuff. You need to end a war where young men are dying. That should always be the thing.
Agreed.
I think what's really unfair about that clip and why it makes me kind of quite sad is that he's been enticed there. He's in the lion's den, and English is not his first language. And a couple of times when he was shouted down, he said, what's happening in my country's feeling, you will feel this also. And Trump
that was actually a threat.
Wait there, Trump said, no, it wasn't, because Trump said, don't tell me what I'm going to feel. There was the guy there who there was a guy there who said to him about dressing up, and he said, I will stop wearing this costume. Costume, if you translate it directly in Ukrainian, means uniform. So there's a language barrier there that he's trying to keep up with whilst three people are yelling at him. It's a bit hard. It's like when you two gang up on me and I have to try and answer.
When we bully you.
You will make mistakes. And I just kind of think that should have happened behind closed doors. And it didn't.
Yeah, but there was
it came out looking really awful.
There was a lot of backdrop to that. 40 minutes before we saw that. We'll play you another clip in a minute. But Zelensky went with attitude.
Yes.
And there are two things that I couldn't give a crap about. One is what Zelensky was wearing. So on that score, I will say, who cares whether he wears a suit or not? But I do think that they kind of decided to pick on him about that.
It puts you on the back foot, though, Kev.
Yeah.
That's a power play.
Look, I think Trump and Vance had a game plan. I think they did plan to take Zelensky down a peg or two.
Yeah.
I think it got slightly out of hand. I don't think they would have been that thrilled about the way it came across. But I think their plan was well-founded. And look, here we are a week or so on, and Trump has got everything he wanted. And I cannot understand why all the critics, the Democrats, the lefties, the EU leaders seem to want to continue this awful war. What exactly, Samara, is so wrong about President Trump's desire for peace, desire for hundreds of thousands of young men to stop dying in those killing fields in the East?
There's absolutely nothing wrong with what Trump wants. What's wrong is that a lot of people don't want to come to the table and negotiate. And interestingly, Zelensky looked like he wasn't very interested in it. I mean, he's so used to going to all these countries and flying back with a couple bill extra to go who knows where, because there hasn't been much progress made on the border between Russia and Ukraine. But I think what's interesting is to see the America first edict of what Trump tries to do, Trump and Vance. And it's something that's really refreshing, but scary to the left wing and all the Europhiles, because they're not used to seeing people putting their country first or politicians putting their country first in these situations. Yeah. They're used to just whatever looks good.
Yeah, but by the way, let's not demean President Zelensky. This is a grown man who has led his country through 3 years of hellish war against one of the world's great superpowers. And people go, oh, he was bullied. You can't bully a guy like that. Don't demean him by saying he's a bullied victim.
OK,
well, look, we've got to move on because we'll carry on talking about this by all means, because the other great moment of the week, the other big moment was, of course, our friend Donald again, this extraordinary 100-minute address to Congress where he laid out his achievements so far, which have been absolutely remarkable. Here he is talking about his old foe and enemy, Joe Biden.
Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
People don't know whether he's a Russian asset or not. What's his policy with Russia? Does he want them on side? Does he feel that's a good thing to do?
Well,
so we
who
don't
knows?
know what he's
Who
doing.
knows? That's the point. He has a plan. He's not a stupid man. He has a plan, and everything I would suggest is going to plan. He's going to force peace through, and I don't care what people say. Oh, you've got to be careful because Russia will invade Moldova. Yeah, not for 5 years, not for 10 years, maybe never. If we could stop that war for a year. Good idea, right, Samara? Hundreds of thousands of young men's lives saved.
Yeah, it's hilarious how peace has now become a right-wing ideology overnight. It's so funny. I mean, free speech, peace.
All the lefties, they want the destruction and the horror to continue.
They do.
It's because the Ukraine war has become this totemic symbol of the brave EU standing strong against the evil bear of Russia. And so they're prepared, the Macron and the gang, for more and more young men to die out there just to fight their symbolic combat. It's ridiculous.
However, if we can look at what's happening in the Middle East, where there's a country there that you could argue has been occupied, then what do we gain from having Ukraine in the middle of Europe occupied by Russia? If that peace isn't...
Well, it's not going to be... It won't be occupied by Russia because he's going to do the mineral deal. America will then have skin in the game. Ukraine will be full of Americans. Putin will never invade. And by the way, Putin is so depleted by this war that he thought he would win in 2 weeks that he won't have the ability to invade anywhere, I would suggest, for a decade. And the way the world goes, if you've got a decade of peace, let's go for it. That's what I say. Time for a real break. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
Welcome back to the final part of this special edition of What Just Happened. Hell of a show today, I must admit, though I say so myself. Even Simon's been quite good, and that really is unusual. But this is the complaints department where we go through the messages you're kind enough to send us and read a few out. So, ladies first, Simon, I'll do that joke this week.
Sure Cruising 7004 says, why are you all talking / shouting over each other? Let people finish their sentences at least. Annoying. This interviewer is the most incompetent I've ever seen.
Well, thanks for that bit, but I was saying exactly that earlier in the show, if you remember. Samara.
What would be really interesting would be to
Who's
hear...
this from, though?
This is from Alison. To hear Simon's opinion without those other two rude bozos interrupting.
Moonlight Cricket asks, what in God's name is wrong with that Simon? He can't see anything for what it truly is. I've never seen anyone so brainwashed in all my life. By the way, love your show.
Yeah, thank you very much. I like, that was a cricket?
Moonlight Cricket.
Moonlight Cricket, so I'm assuming that's from this side of the pond. Nice to have your message, Moonlight. Go on, Samara.
Carol says, shut up, Kevin, and stop jumping on anyone who tries to make a different point. And then David the First says, Simple Simon sinks to a new low by defending the indefensible BBC Hamas propaganda program.
Yeah, by the way, well, that David the First, the King David the First, I'm assuming. I've got a good point there. That show is really causing problems. Go on, Simon.
Gemini Bradshaw, two from her. Bye, Simon is on another planet. Can't listen to Simon. Simon, politely, have you got the hots for Meghan? Because you're always shielding her. And then she goes on to say, Simon, I agree what you say about Trump. At least you're talking sense.
There you go.
See, you can have two different views.
You divide the room. Do you fancy Meghan?
No.
Oh,
No.
That's interesting.
No.
Yeah, you so do. Samara?
Janie says, Whatever anyone says, I love watching your show. You, Samara, and Simon are so good together. Kevin, you're a bit chaotic, but it's fantastic. Samara can stand up. Samara can stand up for herself in these conversations, but Simon is a bit blind and forced. It's like looking out for a poor, sweet little girl. I'd love someone shouting a bit over the gusto.
Thank you very much for that lovely message. And that's the end of this excellent edition, if I may say so myself, of What Just Happened. Thank you for watching. We'll be back same time, same place, right here. Be there next week.